Now, what is yoga? It's an ancient science. It's more of a science than a philosophy. It generally, much of its terminology is derived from Sankhya, of Kapila, the great Muni Kapila, who Krishna says, among the Munis, I am Kapila. But then yoga became an independent darshan of its own. The most important propounder of yoga in an orderly way, rather texts also, was Patanjali. Patanjali was a man who actually made it so orderly and systematic and put it up in the form of sutras. Sutra is aphorism. You need an interpreter to understand the sutra because so many things are tied up in one sentence, for instance, one verse. So the great Patanjali codified. It brought the essence of the teachings of yoga, which of course were there before him. If you go to the Mandukya, if you go to the Mundaka, if you go to many of the Upanishads, there are mentions of yoga in different forms. But he codified it and made it a practical thing for you and me. And he brought it out in this little collection called the Yoga Sutras. Patanjali Yoga Sutras is also called Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga simply means that it is a yoga of 8 limbs. So, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is beautiful because it's a practical system, step by step. No need to imagine anything, no need to speculate. It's a step by step way of trying to clear the muck of the mind and freeing it from all the conditionings and the adaptations that have taken place so that it remains pure. In that pure mind is reflected the self. So, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali starts with Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Here begins, no other nonsense, nothing is there. Atha Yoga Anushasanam, here begins the study of yoga. And then he goes on to say, Yoga is Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the overcoming or the calming down of all the vrittis of the chitta. Vritti, all the waves and disturbances. Chitta, the mind or the consciousness, awareness. See, when you sit down and close your eyes, see how many vrittis are there. Now, vrittis are also acquired in this life. We believe that some of them are acquired from the past. It is these vrittis which, like waves, it's like if you drop a stone in a pool of water, first you get one ripple, then it spreads and spreads, and there are many ripples coming from it. The vrittis are like these ripples. They also are made up of our likes and dislikes, of our fear, of our anger, of all the emotions that we go through. They're all part of the vrittis. Well, to live in this world, you need vrittis. Vrittis are very much required. You can't live otherwise. But if you want to find your true essence or source, you need to calm down the vrittis and finally wash them out. And then the mind becomes like a pond without any ripple whatsoever. And in that quiet, spotless, rippleless mind is reflected the consciousness. Actually, when this happens, there is no mind, there is only consciousness. So, Patanjali says to go there, you need to first get rid of the vrittis. Therefore, defines yogas, chitta vritti nirodha, cutting down of the vrittis. And then he describes different ways of doing it. The first chapter of the Yoga Sutras, of course, is a discussion on consciousness and what is chitta, what is the essence of consciousness, and so on. And the meaning of the word samadhi. Now we know when you say samadhi, you think somebody is dead and buried. Samadhi ho gaya uska. Samadhi is when all the vrittis have vanished and the mind remains crystal clear and reflects the eternal consciousness. This is samadhi. So he goes about step by step, especially for practical people who want to know what will happen if I go from here to here, and slowly go and also assess oneself as how one is moving forward. So, therefore, he says, the practice of yoga has 8 limbs. What are the 8 steps by which it's called Ashtanga? Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, Iva Samyama. These are the 8 angas of yoga. When you start practicing yoga, there is no need even of a belief system. You can also do without it. It's up to you, but you can do also without it. For instance, the Buddhist philosophy is basically atheistic. No concept of Ishvara out there, but they have very good systems of yoga. So also the Jains. I think many of you probably don't realize that the Jains have no concept of Ishvara. And yet, they are among the most austere in their practices. They believe in ahimsa, they believe in purifying the mind so that the soul becomes free. So, yoga, therefore, is divided into yama, niyama, and so on. So we need to prepare ourselves if we need to go the yogic way, step by step.